Hello everybody. Today I won't be playing any games. I just want to make another Malirant. This time I want to talk about new gaining grounds too, and especially the guild place in this gaining ground. So for those reasons I prepared this little playground, and you can see I fetched some models just for example, and I just made a small groups of them, and on the left I think are best models in the faction for the schemes and strategies in sheer value of the action points, and those two models are a bit worse but still really good. Those are really good, but only in special circumstances. The Death Marshal is just a general model, and the Peacekeeper just represents a really bad model for the schemes, because it's very expensive, and its role is something entirely different. Well, what can I say? The overall tendency of the gaining ground is to increase the overall cost of action points for victory point. So not every schemes and strategies kind of fit in this theme, but overall, over all the schemes and strategies, I think the cost of action points rose significantly. It can be actually, there is a very good example of that. We had a really efficient scheme in the gaining ground 0 Outflank, and now it requires 4 more action points, and actually now it is a lot easier to deny. So you can compare those two and kind of get the idea of the general direction we're just taking, and for this exact reason a lot of people I talk to consider that the future is kind of for the crews with a lot of action points, and probably the cheap and efficient models will rise in value. I don't actually agree that every cheap model will rise in value. I think there are only certain models that will, like Wicked Dolls, for example, in Neverborn. Like, they are almost the best scheme runner there is in terms of cost efficiency. They have 2.5 action points, and they're really cheap with the stealth, and they are hard to kill for this reason. And well, in Guild we have models, not many models that have an additional equivalent of the action point. The first star that comes to mind are Mountain Guards and the Pale Rider, because Rider with me is very good, and can be considered as the additional action, and even 2 actions in some cases. We have a Purifying Flame that is very mobile, and one of the best scheme runners in Guild if you have this pesky 7 in your hand. We have a Guild Lawyer that can be reliably made to the backline scheme runner, and he's away with a really good trigger for the additional scheme marker. And of course Lady Justice, that is a pure but costly 4 action points model. Well, what can I say? I don't really think that those very costly schemes will be our main targets in the gaining grounds, because I still prefer the schemes and strategies that do not really require additional investment, because it is very hard to do in the competitive crews right now, especially for the guild, because the main powerhouses in our factions are the Shell, Lucius and Nelly in this aspect. They can have the resources, right? But they are really easily denied because they don't have the models that can boast stealth in abundance, or for that matter, survivability. Well, just let's experiment a bit. Well, we have two very common and well-known strategies in this gaining round. That's corrupted ley lines. It is considered a strong strategy for the guild because you don't have. It is pretty hard to deny against us because it is we have a lead line code, for that matter. It is not really that common to have those markers blocked by the opponent with some type of markers. So you just need to walk. Like it is very easy to score the first one, and it is really easy to score the second one with with one fitting model, right? And you just run along. You don't have to do anything, and you can just be on your way. And symbols are known for the similar reasons, because we are pretty bad as a faction. We don't have a reliable way to deny those symbols. Maybe with the traps, but something like reporters, but that's it. And we only have a few models that can reliably take the symbols, and that's really bad because the best models we have, they are unimpeded, right? But they are on the 50mm basis, and they can be stuck, and they can be slowed down, and that's really a problem because still the only suited and very good models on removing symbols is still Lady Justice, and you don't especially take her in every game for symbols, right? Because she's not a staple. So those two strategies were talked about a lot, so we won't actually talk about them. And the break the line, that's the interesting one, because I think that it is kind of fitting for the guild, actually. I don't think we will be suffering a lot like in symbols. It certainly is more suited for the guild than the symbols. And the fun thing is that if you are a defender, you have a distinct... it is more favorable for you, because you can kinda force the opponent to place the symbol as you want, because the first symbol is very obvious. Like you can deny the corner like that. So, and this corner will be void of strategy importance, because the only thing the opponent will want to do in here is something like outflank maybe, or probably spread them out, but those schemes are not really that efficient, so you are kind of forcing it to the center, and it's in your favor. And you can do the same here if the opponent will get in your trap, and then you'll have only two places, like here and here, and that will be really obvious what to do. And the main area of interest in this example will be here, and in the center especially. And it is very beneficial to combine with schemes like claim jump that's still in the pool, and it is very good to conserve your action points like that, because you don't have actually to dedicate a model for the schemes if you are strategically prepared for the scheme pool. So in this pool, if you have, for example, a claim jump, an assassinate, vendetta, or maybe even research mission, or let them bleed, or even catch and release, you are kinda not forced to take the specialized models, and you force your opponent to think hard what you actually took. because you can take any one of them. And on the other side, the schemes like spread them out, detonate charges, and the breakthrough, they actually are not that valid anymore, because they are a lot harder to do, especially dead bats. They're almost impossible to do in the current guild. Very hard. And detonate charges they're very hard to do for guild also, because it's requires a lot of investment only for 1 point, and if you did it, it's almost impossible to score the other one. And actually, I think this scheme is also bad, that it forces you to spend a lot of time to try and score as soon as possible with the first with the reveal part, because if you are forced to kind of play back and you don't have any chances to reveal it, you'll have even worse time trying to close it. It is very bad scheme for the player that is forced to play back. So for that example with a break line, I think we can actually even play games with a full 4 points, and that is it is not really common for guild to play a high points game, because I know by the personal example, I don't usually play with a high score of 8 or 7. It's more like 6 is the top, is the usual top I usually play, because it's really hard to force your strategy to go full points. It's a lot easier to score schemes. At least it was the case in the Gaining Grounds 1, right? But in this case, you can combine. Break line is a really nice scheme, a strategy for the combining strategy and schemes in our preference. So, because even if you take like 3 Death Marshal game, right? Like that. You can actually just prepare for the scoring with the usual, just with walks. You can do that. So this one, you can just walk like that, and you'll be prepared to score the second turn. And that's easy to do with the general models, and actually general models without any movement tricks, but with a survivor build like Death Marshals will be very valuable in this scenario, because they can be valuable without kinda forcing you to take unoptimized crew. You can still take pretty much crew that can stand you the ground. That is really nice. And you don't even have to play like mounted guards, because you there is some reason to play it very fast and like do it on the first turn. So this idle and this break the line symbol cannot be used by the opponent to score himself. But anyway, if you aim for this type of play, you kind of need to do it all over the center line, because the opponent can just move the symbol on the bottom and still score. So you need to play the deny game all over the place, all over the center line. And actually, a best crew can be pretty reliably be used in that kind of situation, and that's finally his place, I think, in the strategy pool, because he can start at exactly at the center line and can really efficiently use his action point without any walks. That's really good. So I don't think we need more time to discuss this one, because I think if played smart, it can be really good for guild, and even for almost any crew, can be played efficiently. So the turf war, that's a tricky one. This is I think really good strategy actually, because it combines nicely with the action points requirement, both for the interacts and actually playing with your opponent, because you can't. Well, you actually, yeah, you can score turf war without interacting with the opponent, right? But it is really hard to do, because opponent have an easy way to deny you points. So you need to be both proactive, you need to force yourself on the other side of the table, and you can actually, you are forced to play an action efficient game yourself. So that's a really nice game to balance with your crew and your actions, and can be really hard. So this is the classical strategy that requires you both a really buff models that will be really proactive, and a really stealthy and hard to kill cheap scheme runners. So that's that's fun, but that can't be realistically done with guild. Maybe Hoffman, but it is really hard to do. So this is a fun. This is not, I think, the best strategy for guild, but you can play smart. Because we don't have really good alpha strikes in guild. Many say that we actually do with Bass and Lady Justice, but I always consider them not really that competitive. Well, I know that many of you guys will not be in agreement with me, and that's probably just the way I play. I don't really like aggressive crews, and I'm not an expert in them. That's too much gambling involved. But I can see your point here. I can see that both Bass and Lady Justice can be really good in turf war, because they can actually just get a couple of models back, and they will be almost impossible to kill if they play it right, like Ostringers, for example, and can play it really aggressive. But with a good crew against them, then they can just be they can just end in the turn 3 maybe, and that will be just I think 3 to 4 points max. Well, maybe if you play it with an addition of some really beneficial schemes for you, like Hidden Martyrs, for example, or Vendetta, it can probably work, yeah. But that's it. You should be careful. You really, in this gaining rounds, you should be really careful with the Alpha Strikes crew, because I don't think the skin pools favor this enough to justify the risk. Because you can still see the aggressive crews, plenty of them actually, but in the other factions, I don't think guild will be in favor in this kind of situations. Well, let's talk about the schemes a bit more. So why do I think some schemes that require additional action points are bad? I'll just talk about them. Let's spread them out. That's outflank. That's of course dead bats. And detonate charges. So those four, I think those 4 schemes are really bad for guild, and I actually maybe to the lesser extent a breakthrough, but at least breakthrough is decently easy enough to score for 1 point on certain certain deployments. And let's talk about this 4 for now. So let's just think. So what do you need to do for a detonate charges? You need an enemy model, and you need 2 ski markers in 2 inches. from this model. So the only realistic way of this to proc just in any game, you need to kind of spam scheme markers all over the place. So they will be everywhere. But this is not realistically possible without heavy suspicion from the opponent side, right? And we don't have a lot of ways to do that. We have draw out secrets on just a handful of mediocre models, and a majority of them are in the Lucius crew. And Lucius is, it is good, but if you will take a crew heavily dependent on those models, he will be very, very vulnerable for aggression. And I don't think this is a viable strategy. So, and if you just want to score it yourself, then this is probably a really hard thing to do, because you will probably need at least 2 models to do that, because the only model that can do that reliably by itself is false witness, and that's it. And you can't actually do that with a walk and interact, even with 3 actions, because you need to consider that an enemy model will probably still have an engagement range. And the only model that we have with the Don't Mind Me infection is an ally. So that is really, really hard to do. And if you do that once, the second time is probably not going to end well for you. So you're both signaling with your crew building that you will be attempting to do that. Well, it can be used as a bait. Yeah, it can be. But on the other side, you'll almost never be able to score full points. And at least one is, it is too hard. So that's for the detonate charges. Spread them out is also still hard for us to do, because you need a really wide angle to do that. You'll have to dedicate a lot of models to different angles, and they will have to waste their actions to doing only this scheme. This is very, very inefficient. So let's see a single death marshal will have to spend whole 2 turns to do that for 1 symbol. And that's also requires that he will not be dealt with by the enemy in any way. So that's bad. That's really bad. So I almost never consider taking the spread them out, because you need a crew heavily tilted to the scheme running, and it's not really efficient, as I already said. And the same thing with outflank. You dedicate a model for the sole duty of standing in the corner, and in the old gaining ground and gaining ground 0, at least you just needed to be there briefly, and there was a possibility to just score and then be gone for another points, and then just be back for the final point. And now you need to dedicate this those models for the whole turn on the both sides, because you need 4 additional action points for the schemes, and you will need to be sure that you won't be denied, because if you spend an action point and it will be denied, this will be a huge loss for you almost every time. Well, and death bets, just don't bother. You will need to place a scheme marker to some sort of marker you have no control, and you can actually choose corpse markers and the scrap markers, but I only recommend to do that if an enemy has no ways for those markers to manipulate those markers. And oh man, I tried this scheme in beta, and I tried it I think 4 or 5 times, and I was never able to score anything for this scheme. It is too hard. Yeah, when you're required to place a skew marker, you don't have a model that can do that. You don't have cards for a lower bay for that, and you actually need to urgently do something else entirely, just not to lose any more points, like 2 or 3. You're forced to do something else. So those schemes, I consider those schemes win more schemes. So those will probably work if you have a huge advantage over your opponent. But in other cases, I really suggest you don't pick those. Those are hard. And the breakthrough is somewhere in between. It can be done with a single rider if he's like left alone for the whole game. But that's also a gamble, right? If he is not left alone, if he's killed, if he's slowed, if he's engaged, this will be a problem. And especially if the opponent have some ways of marker removal. It's a commitment, and if you lose it, you won't probably get anything back. So what do we have left? So claim jump is still a quite easy scheme to do for the guild. Well, you need to be really sure when to take it and when not to take it, because it is a really good bait scheme. So every good opponent will know that the claim jump is an easily deniable scheme for the first point, and the second point, if everything will work their way. So be wary of that. I don't think I can say anything more about this one. It is very swingy. And if you have a lot of a base, if you have a lot of ways to get any models somewhere else, like I don't know, executioners or guardians with a pulse action to move enemies away, you can go for it. Why the hell not? Or even bring it from the back line, or you can actually bait your model for the claim jump somewhere here and engage it with some enemy model, and then just I got your back somewhere here for 3 points. And this scheme is really good for mind games, because when it is in the wool and you have heavy mobile models with a lot of health and that are pretty hard to kill, it is always a mind game, and it is really good. I really like when this scheme is in the pool, because I always have an option not to take it, and kinda force the opponent to think that I did, and that's really good. So Vendetta and Assassinate are very, very common schemes. They are very old, and they are pretty reliable. So, and Vendetta is kinda a gamble. That's a personal preference. I don't really like it that much, but in certain place, it is just worth to take something that can take Vendetta against the opponent, because if you hit the jackpot and you'll find a perfect opponent and a perfect model for that, just take it, and it will be easy. And if not, then you can just bait it anyway. And Assassinate is really synergetic with everything you'll do, because if opponent will take a really hard to kill master, and will dedicate some time for the avoiding direct confrontations, that's still fine for you, because you can just not take it. And if you have a point of interest in the center, you have relevant schemes, a relevant strategy, then you can just go for it and win more with just a good place. So that's a solid schemes with no evident and fatal I don't know how it's how can I say, faults, yeah, and they're really in the middle, and that's good. That's the schemes you can consider playing. and it is fine if you take them, and it's fine if you don't. So, and hidden martyrs, it's the hidden gem, or a quite obvious gem from the previous gaining rounds, and this scheme is great, and if you play it right, it will probably be at least 1 point, and if you play it even more right, 2 points. And it is very fun to deny, and it is very fun to play around. I think it's probably in the middle as well, and you can really easily bait the opponent to thinking that you have it, and you can actually not take it, and that's great. So, catch and release. This is a pretty good one, because we don't really have a lot of ways to score it. We have some, and my favorite one is actually playing Wishling Handler with a late line code, and he can be really good at the catch and release. But in general, it is not really fitting for the guild. It is pretty hard to score otherwise, and that's bad. So Let Them Bleed is still in the middle, and it is I think it's more on the good side, because the more you score this, and even if you don't, but just try, it still is better for you. If you even if you try and fail to score the scheme, it's still good for you, because the enemy teams is suffering, and that's generally a really good thing to do. So research mission is bad. It's bad. It's hard to do if you have a lot of constructs and undead or living or beasts on the other side of the board, and on your side of the board, and you're playing aggressively. Then maybe it's a good idea, but generally it is not. It is generally not. So it is more. Those are kinda more in this crowd. So like breakthrough and catch and release. Then the bad ones at the top. Good ones at the bottom. And bait and switch is in a strange place, really, because, well, I don't think it is the best scheme, but it can be safely played for the 2 points. It certainly can, and you'd even probably have to just take a lawyer for that, and it will probably be enough. And maybe a lawyer and some bring it like Fiona or Raycard, and it can be safely done, yeah. But I think it's safe to think this scheme is only for 1 point, because not every game takes a turn to your favor, right? So I think I place it somewhere here. So what do we have? We have 5 solid schemes for everything. We have 3 schemes somewhere in the middle. You can take them when necessary, and we have 5 schemes that are really bad for us. So it's kinda balanced, I'd say, but actually having 5 schemes in the pool that are really bad are really bad, because that's a lot of very difficult scheme pools for us to play around. We'll have to get creative. So strategy-wise, I think Guild is kinda in a better place that we had before, because Turf War and Break Lane especially, I think they're nice. They're a nice change. They're still not the recover evidence or Achilles scheme, but they will require some smart play, and we can do that, so we can play around it. And schemes are really difficult. It will be really difficult for us, that's for sure, because we don't have a lot of obvious choices, and we have a lot of dead schemes that if we will try to do them, we'll probably be in trouble. Well, that's probably everything that I wanted to talk about. I'd be glad to hear some comments from you guys. Maybe we'll even have some additional discussion after that. So thanks, and see you next time.